Right now on Current News, 16 and up, appointments opening for an extra 3 million people around New York as President Biden looks to open eligibility across the country. The Empire State is set to raise taxes yet again, but will you be paying up? Then a man on a mission. He's 83 and a pandemic can't stop him.
Bells of hope ringing out across the Diocese of Brooklyn. I'm Jessica Easthope, and I'll introduce you to the Catholic man behind them and his message to the world.
Plus, shops boarded up around the country, but this one is opening its doors for the first time. Meet one woman who is putting her faith in God as she takes on a new business.
If that's what God, He just gave you the keys, no matter pandemic or whatever it may be is, it's yours, it's our destiny.
Walk, ring, repeat. That's Stanley Davis's daily routine. Good evening, I'm MICHELLECPOWERS in for Christine Persichetti. But why does the 83-year-old take this walk and ring those heavy bells? Because he says they're not just a sound heard throughout Bedford-Stuyvesant. They're a memory of all the lives lost to COVID-19, and he is their protector, making sure no one could ever forget. Current News' Jessica Easthope took that afternoon stroll with Stanley, the same one he's been taking every day for more than a year.
Stanley Davis has been retired for more than a decade, but every day he has a job to do. He gets up, leaves the house, and walks. The trip isn't far. It's just across the street to St. Peter CLAVER, where he has a duty to fulfill. Ringing the bell. Every day of the pandemic, Stanley's been ringing the bell at St. Peter CLAVER to pray for those who have lost their lives to COVID-19.
When the people hear the bell, I want them to know that we're still praying for them day and night. I don't care what the weather is.
His orders came from the top. Pope Francis asked everyone to pray, and Bishop DiMarzio asked that bells in the diocese be rung at 3 p.m., signifying the time Jesus died on the cross. So when that message got to Father Alonzo Cox, he knew exactly who to ask.
There would be days that I would walk in there and all the lights are off and Stanley is right there praying the rosary. That's why I knew the person to ring the bell at 3 o'clock would be Stanley.
But it's not just the time of day that's significant.
Just looking at it is a joy.
Stanley rings the bell, praying for the intercession of the little flower.
When I ring the bell, I ring it for St. Teresa. I ring it 24 times for her age, but she died at the age of 24.
Stanley didn't ring the bell during Lent to mark a solemn time in the liturgical year, but on Tuesday he was back at it.
You just hold her over.
He even gave me a try. Can I do it?
Do it.
There's more to it than you think.
How was that?
Perfect.
Like many New Yorkers, Stanley lost a family member to COVID-19, his younger brother, Franklin.
Nobody could even visit with him anything, so you just had to accept what the reports were.
He wants everyone who lost someone to know their loved ones are not forgotten. It's Stanley's way of living out his faith.
Trying to please him, you know you're doing something right.
More New Yorkers are now becoming eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. But until the last coronavirus death, Stanley will be at the bell at 3 o'clock. In Bedford-Stuyvesant, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Thank you, Stanley, for thinking of all of us. Catholic churches in Queens are joining in on that vaccination effort, helping out one of the neighborhoods hit hardest by the pandemic. The New York City Health and Hospitals Test and Trace Corps is already running a pop-up vaccination site at one of our churches, Our Lady of Sorrows, and another one at St. Leo's Catholic Church in Corona is about to open. Our Lady of Sorrows kicked off their effort last Monday and has already vaccinated 588 congregants. St. Leo's will start vaccinations this Thursday, April 9th, and will continue through Sunday, April 11th. And starting April 19th, Our Lady of Sorrows will become a permanent vaccination site. Turning now to a big deal, one that would make New Yorkers' wealthiest residents pay up big time. A new budget agreement could make millionaires cough up the highest personal income taxes in the nation due to the pandemic's economic fallout. For years, the governor resisted the move, arguing it may drive business out of the state. But the growth of the legislature's progressive wing and the governor's waning influence got the budget moving. People who make between $5 and $25 million would pay 10.3% of their earnings. Other aspects of the budget are still being negotiated, including assistance for small businesses. That would be a welcome sign to many whose doors are still closed a year later. But tonight, we have the story of an owner who just opened up shop in Queens Village. Current News' Emily Druby introduces us to a woman who says God is giving her strength where the government is falling short.
Mimi's, how can I help you?
Saying that has been Carmela Nasa-Lencelati's lifelong dream. She grew up in the food industry, spending many a day at her parents' restaurant.
I always wanted to have my own.
And now she does. But for this deeply faithful Catholic, the opportunity came at a seemingly inopportune time during a raging global pandemic. Back in March, when the virus first started spreading in New York, it actually seemed like the perfect time as more people relied on food delivery.
And to me, I think those are the signs, since that you have this dream, it's the sign that we should actually look into it.
So she and her husband, Frederic, did look into it. And around Thanksgiving, they found this space. For Carmela, it was love at first sight.
Something like I felt like a stone on top of me. I couldn't move. I was heavy. When we walked out, I said to my husband, I looked at him and I said, this is it.
Right as her dream was in grasp, fear set in. The pandemic, once inspiration, now a cause for concern as COVID cases started to skyrocket again. In December alone, 500,000 jobs vanished from restaurants, hotels, casinos, and other entertainment venues, the highest number since April. Thousands were fleeing the food industry as they were about to jump in feet first.
People not going to eat outside. People don't, we really want to invest in something like that. It's scary. It is. I have 2 kids. We have our bills.
That's when faith took over. Frederic told Carmela that the way she felt when she walked into the building must be a sign from God.
He said, don't worry about it. If that's what God, he just gave you the keys, no matter pandemic or whatever it may be it's yours, is our destiny.
1 week later, December 18th, they officially owned the pizzeria. Carmela left her long-standing volunteer position at her children's school, Immaculate Conception Catholic Academy. They opened up right away and haven't looked back, trusting in God, leaning on their faith, and taking the plunge. In Queens Village, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Some more good news. It looks like some of New York City's small businesses like Mimi's seem to be bouncing back. We're seeing a small improvement. In April last year, Census Bureau data showed 77% of small businesses in New York reporting decreases in revenue. Right now, 27% are reporting a drop. Another 65% are reporting no change. Those struggles are being felt in cities and towns across the country, and many Christians are stepping up to help. A Lutheran church in Stockton, California gave 30 families a $500 check to help pay expenses. Many of those families are migrants. The church was given a $300,000 grant from a local nonprofit. Church leaders hope they can use the money to help at least 600 other families in the area. In an effort to get the country up and running again, President Biden is moving up the vaccine eligibility deadline. The commander-in-chief is shaving off 2 weeks from the time he originally said all adults will be eligible to get their shots. The new date is now April 19th. It comes as a flood of vaccine supply is being sent to states. New York, on the other hand, is 10 steps ahead of Biden's announcement. Starting today, New Yorkers age 16 and up can sign up for their shots. That begins another race for appointments. 3.5 million new people are now eligible. 16 is the youngest age allowed by the FDA. But will all these new vaccinated people need passports? Dr. Anthony Fauci says no, the federal government will not mandate the use of passports for travelers or businesses post-pandemic. The idea of requiring immunization credentials has become a point of contention among lawmakers. The governors of Florida and Texas have taken executive action to ban passports in their states. So far, New York is the only state that's debuted a vaccine passport, launching a voluntary app that shows proof of inoculation. As the vaccine race picks up speed, so too are variant concerns. Despite efforts, new mutations of the virus are still popping up around the country. Britt Conway has that story.
From production to packaging to planes to the pavement and to the people.
Okay, here we go.
The COVID-19 vaccine rollout is going strong, with every state announcing plans to expand vaccine eligibility to people 16 years and older, if they haven't already. But Dr. Ashish Jha, epidemiologist Michael Osterholm, and Dr. Paul Offit worry it's creating false hope. Average new case counts are up more than 16% these past 2 weeks. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says part of the reason for the rise is because of variants like the one first spotted in the UK.
It's not long before it's going to sweep across the country.
And the variants make it particularly concerning.
That's because there are still so many questions about the variants.
To date, we don't know that these variants have completely escaped immunity, where, for example, if you've been naturally infected or immunized, you still may be hospitalized or be in an ICU or die.
And there are other variants popping up, like the one first identified in India that's also been reported in California, not to mention the variants still to come as viruses mutate over time.
Where will these new variants come from that we couldn't even imagine today?
Still, they all agree vaccinations are our best bet.
Either get vaccinated, or if we haven't had a chance to get a vaccine yet, at least wear a mask and social distance.
So we really do have to hunker down for a few more weeks.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The police officer killed in last week's attack at the Capitol will lie in honor in the Rotunda. Officer William Evans died Friday after a man rammed a vehicle into a barricade at the Capitol. The suspect was shot and killed by other officers. Lying in honor at the Capitol is the civilian equivalent of lying in state, which is reserved only for government and military officials. It's a rare honor that was last given to Brian Sicknick, the Capitol police officer killed in January's riot. Evans served on the Capitol Police Force for 18 years. The trial of the former police officer accused of killing George Floyd continued today, with another member of Minneapolis's police department answering questions. Use of force was examined. A lieutenant in charge of teaching that said Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck is not a technique taught when instructing officers how to restrain people.
Sir, is this an MPD trained neck restraint?
No, sir.
And so if there was, say for example, the subject was under control and handcuffed, would this be authorized?
I would say no.
However, he also said that in some cases it might be appropriate to put a knee on someone as they're handcuffed and to keep a knee if they're thrashing around. But if they are laying downward, they should be moved onto their side or to a sitting or standing position to avoid asphyxiation. There's a lot more news headed your way. Pope Francis has been dealing with sciatica for years, but what exactly is it? We talk with a doctor. Plus, an unstoppable mother. She lost her son to terrorism, but now she's reaching out to the communities where terror brews and remembering a controversial priest, one who challenged the Vatican. Pope Francis has been dealing with sciatica for years, at some points having to cancel events because of the pain. But what exactly is it? Currents News' Emily Drewby spoke with a doctor about the condition and its causes.
Pope Francis spends his life serving God and faithful Catholics around the globe, but sometimes it can be difficult health-wise. During Holy Week, the beloved pontiff was seen struggling to walk. For years, he's publicly dealt with hip issues and bouts of sciatica, even back when he first became the Pope.
Really, I experienced this in my first month as Pope because when I would give interviews, I would sit in an armchair that caused this problem. It's a very, very painful sciatica. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Recently, he canceled appearances because of the sciatica pain, but what is it?
So most people who experience sciatica, which is a symptom, the pain will start in their lower back and it will actually radiate down into either one of their legs or both of their legs.
The most basic explanation, it's a nerve pain, a symptom of an injury or irritation at the bottom of your spine, your sciatic nerve. Dr. Melinda KELLER sees it all the time at the Brooklyn Spine Center. She says often it's caused by a misalignment of the spine or issues with the discs, ones that interfere with the nerve.
But what we're looking for are aligned vertebrae with healthy disc spaces that will create a nice opening for a nerve to come off.
This is a healthy spine. You can see the big gaps. This is not a healthy spine. The gaps are smaller.
The discs are thinning and reduced in space, and as a result, there's not an opening here to pull that nerve off of.
In the worst cases, it can be debilitating.
When you have severe sciatic, you pretty much can't think of anything else.
It can also be reoccurring, depending on what's causing it. It's pretty common. Up to 40% of Americans will experience it at some point in their life. It can happen to anyone. Dr. KELLER has even seen teenagers with it, but normally patients are late 20s and up. Dr. KELLER says if you're having what you think is sciatic pain, go to a doctor right away, and they'll be able to treat the problem at the root of the pain and not just the pain. That could be through realignments, stretches, spinal injections, depending on your doctor. She also suggests regular spinal checkups throughout life to prevent it, like going to the dentist to prevent cavities. In Borough Park, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
But as we know, nothing stops Pope Francis. The pontiff took some time off to remember those spending this Easter season in nursing homes and care facilities.
A essi invio una parola di incoraggiamento e di riconoscenza per la loro testimonianza. Gli sono vicino. E a tutti auguro di trascorrere con fede questi giorni dell'ottava di Pasqua.
From Italy to the United States and around the world, the elderly have been the most hard hit by the pandemic, especially those with pre-existing conditions. Father Hans Küng, a prominent and sometimes controversial theologian known for his criticism of the Catholic Church, has passed away. Küng is especially known for his criticism of the church doctrine on papal infallibility, or the idea that the Pope cannot make an error in teachings on faith or morality. It led to the Vatican stripping his license to teach as a Catholic theologian in the late 1970s. However, he continued to teach and write, as well as had his own foundation for the promotion of dialogue between world religions until 2013. The Swiss Catholic priest died peacefully in his sleep in his German home earlier today. He was 93 years old. President Joe Biden has recorded a video that will be played at naturalization ceremonies for new U.S. citizens.
May God bless you all, and may God bless the United States of America.
Every president records these messages for new citizens, but Biden's message comes at a challenging moment for the U.S. as waves of migrants try to cross the southern border. The Department of Homeland Security is considering restarting construction of the border wall. This as Customs and Border Protection says migrants are able to get into the country through various openings in the wall. The DHS secretary said he is looking into options on how to plug those gaps. The Trump administration was only able to build 460 miles of the border wall before President Biden put a stop to construction via an executive order. Two Yemeni men on the FBI's terror watch list are now in custody. Federal authorities announcing they arrested the men for attempting to illegally enter the U.S. from Mexico. Customs and Border Protection did not release the identities of the men, but found out they were terrorism suspects after conducting a background check on the suspects. A mother who lost her son in a terrorist attack in France is turning the worst day of her life into a mission for global peace. Her efforts to make a better world in the wake of her tragedy has earned recognition from the Pope. Latifa is a mother in mourning. Her son killed during a fundamentalist attack in France in March of 2012. his murderer, a self-proclaimed jihadist. He was killed during a police shootout before Latifah could get answers. So she decided to go to his neighborhood to try to make sense of what happened, asking strangers if they knew her son's killer.
They looked at me and asked, "But ma'am, don't you watch TV? Don't you read the paper? Mohammed Merah is a martyr, a hero of Islam. He brought France to its knees." I looked at them and asked if they knew who I was. I told them I was Imad's mom and asked how they could say Mohammed was a martyr, that he was truly a murderer. Then they got up and surrounded me. I thought my time had come also.
But that wasn't the end. What happened was the beginning of another story, because the young people were moved by Latifah.
They told me they understood what I was going through, and that I was a brave woman for going there to look for my son's killer. One said, "My mom would never do that. When I leave the house, she tells me she hopes I don't return."
She says everything changed then. She saw how hatred grows within people who feel abandoned. Barely a month after her son's death, she founded an organization called the Imad Association for Youth and Peace and dedicated her life to preventing the radicalization of young people. Her work earned her an award, one created after the Pope and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar signed the document on human fraternity. The award is given to those who build bridges between people of different religions.
It was an honor, and I hope to someday meet Pope Francis. He is a man I admire, and a man who opens paths of peace. He's extraordinary. May God protect him.
In that virtual ceremony where Latifah received her award, the Pope spoke to her directly, thanking her for her work in promoting peace. Still to come on Currents News, a veteran believed to be the oldest living general celebrates a big birthday, what he says his life secret is. Take a look at these fluffy guys. They're okay tonight after some Colorado firefighters came to their rescue. They fell from their nest and they're only 2 weeks old, so they can't fly yet. That's when the first responders were called in. Mom was close by and keeping an eye on the rescue mission. Officials say the owlets, love that word, are now safe and sound. And from those babies to a man who's been around for more than a century, hundreds gathered in California to celebrate the birthday of the world's oldest living general. This is retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Harry Goldsworthy, and he celebrated his 107th birthday Saturday. Goldsworthy received a military honor guard tribute and certificate of appreciation for his service to our country. He's believed to be the nation's oldest living vet, and he's still as witty and sharp as they come.
I get asked all the time, what did you do to live so long? And I tell them that I think it's just God's will, and sometimes I wonder whether he's rewarding me or punishing me.
Ready for this, Goldsworthy says his secret to a long life is to drink a shot of vodka every night before bed. Now that's something I can definitely get behind, and that is Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.